Yeah, we do have quorum, so Eddie's running a bit late, but here's what it is.
I think we're ready to go. We're just waiting on one councillor who's just a little late, but we'll make a start. And I understand Councillor Eddie Contell is just imminent to arrive. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting. I'd like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people who are here with us tonight. We are live streaming, being broadcast on the internet, and a recording of the meeting will be published onto Council's website. So welcome everyone here to the City Hall, and it would be remiss if I didn't put on the record congratulations to the Great Geelong Football Club on a great achievement. It's given the City of Greater Geelong fantastic exposure and publicity in the great way that they've been playing, and yesterday was a fantastic day at the GMHBA Stadium. Lots of good community spirit, and we wish the players every success to bring back the trophy come Saturday night. So there aren't any formal apologies. As I mentioned, Councillor Eddie will be just a little late. There are a number of leave of absence requests. The first one is leave of absence to be granted to Councillor Ron Nelson for the period 24 September to 12 October. If I can have a mover. Councillor Wilkinson moved, and Councillor Sinclair second. All those in favour? So that's carried. Then there's a leave of absence to be granted to Councillor Melissa Cadwell for the dates 1st of September to the 3rd of September inclusive. Can I have a mover? Councillor Story moves and Councillor Kados second. All those in favour? So that's carried. Leave of absence be granted to Emma Sinclair for the dates 6th of November to, Elise Wilkinson, I meant to say. Oh, no, it is Emma. Yeah, Emma Sinclair, sorry. For the dates 6th of November to the 15th of November. So have a mover, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Aitken. All those in favour? It's carried. And then also that leave of absence be granted to myself, Councillor S. Contell, for the dates 13 October to the 15th of October. So I have a mover, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Sinclair. All those in favour? So that's carried. Any declarations or conflicts of interest? No. Then confirmation of minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of July. Councillor Nelson and Councillor Story second. All those in favour? That's carried. Now, public question time. We have a number of questions that have been submitted, and I'll go through those. This one from Ian Henricus. Ian, if you'd like to come forward and ask your question.
Good evening, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to ask a question. And I don't know if I'm in the right spot. I don't know if I've picked the right meeting, but if you could alert me to that quickly, I can get out of your hair. There's very busy people. I live in Armstrong Creek. We're blessed with a number of intersections that are controlled by traffic lights, and frankly, they don't need to be controlled by traffic lights. I assume they were part of the property developer's plan and they were passed. I can't see the need for them because they tend to just slow up traffic. And my question was, would you consider replacing them with roundabouts? And it's as simple as that. I don't know if I...
It's quite a good arena, actually. I'll hand over to Executive Director James Sturton to respond.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and thanks for your question tonight. Ian, you are in the right spot, so I'm also happy to have further conversations with you out of this forum and or exchange through emails as well. We do have a a response, and both roundabouts and traffic signals are common treatments at intersections to assist in managing vehicle volumes and turning movements, as well as accessibility and safe crossing facilities for pedestrians and cyclists, as well as motorists. Traffic signals are typically suited for locations expecting significant growth, as we can assign appropriate timing and opportunity for vehicle movements in unbalanced traffic flows. So the decision to install signals at the intersections that you've identified is based on our precinct structure plans and their supporting traffic studies, and they were completed during the planning stages of the growth areas. So these intersections were identified as key points in the future road network, and although signals may seem unnecessary now, they are installed in line with development progression to deliver safe and efficient movement as the area continues to grow and the traffic network reaches capacity. So we appreciate your input and remain committed to delivering infrastructure that meets both the current demands but also the future needs of the growing community.
Can I respond to that?
Typical, but I'll give you 30 seconds.
I don't see Armstrong Creek as being anything special of need of huge traffic. I can go to Highton, I can go to East Geelong, I can go anywhere. It's a typical suburb, and they're not controlled by traffic lights. The roundabouts there are working perfectly well, and I can't see us being special and massive in that growth. I see us as being a typical suburb that needs to be helped out just for the general flow of traffic and the overall happiness of the residents and visitors.
All right, yeah, thanks for your question. Next is Bernard Frankie.
Our neighbour can't get permission to build a family home on land zoned for the purpose, but homes on a developer's estate practically next door had no problem. So my wife and I are trying to work out why there are rules for the big boys and then there are rules for us. Our question is, what is the date that a planning scheme amendment introducing a buffer area overlay was applied to our property in the Greater Geelong Planning Scheme?
Thank you, Mr. Frankie. I'll refer to Executive Director Tennille Bradley to respond. Thanks, Tennille.
I'm sure you'll hear me in the room, but they may not hear online, so I'll use the microphone. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Bernard. The buffers known as default separation distances for landfills were based on EPA publication 788.3, Best Practice Environmental Management, Siting Design, Operation and Rehabilitation of Landfills from August 2015. That document replaced EPA publication 788.2 that was released in October 2014, and the current document is EPA publication 1950, Landfill Buffer Guideline, August 2024. Council needs to consider EPA requirements alongside the planning scheme requirements when making planning permit decisions.
Thanks for that. I already got that response from the Planning Manager. But with respect, you haven't answered my question. What is the date that the planning scheme amendment was introduced to the Greater Geelong Planning Scheme?
You will get a follow-up response in writing today.
Well, I'd like it now, please.
Well, you'll get it in writing. We've given you a verbatim one now, and you'll get one in writing. So I think that's a pretty fair response.
So that's the second. It's been evaded twice now. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jenny Knox. Denise Davies.
statement tonight is in support of a petition that you're receiving about the retention, or submitted for retention of the Dean Street Plantation Reserve. Okay, since we spoke to you last, a couple of weeks ago, we actually collected a lot of signatures in support of, around Belmont, for those who aren't familiar with it. We collected a lot of signatures, over 500 signatures, in support of keeping the Dean Street plantation. We spoke to people from all sorts of walks of life, long-term residents, newcomers, parents, grandparents, and there was generally a consensus that we needed to keep the green space. Why we needed to keep the green space varied. Some people wanted a park, some people wanted a seat to sit on, some people wanted to walk their dogs, some people wanted a community garden. In general though, what struck me about these conversations was the need for community cohesion. So the people, actually, no, what really struck me was people are lonely. You know, when you read about this tsunami of loneliness out there, you know, you think of New York, you think of a city, you think of somewhere else. But it never occurred to me that people were lonely here in Geelong. And they are lonely. You know, there was grandparents walking their kids or their grandchildren, and they had nowhere to take the kids except to walk them around the streets or to go to a coffee shop. They didn't want to go to a coffee shop. And you know, one of the things that really struck me about this was there was a couple of young women who hadn't been able to go back to work after the birth of their children because something was wrong with the child. One had a cleft palate and one had something else. And they sort of fell out of their friendship groups and they had no one to talk to. So they talked to us when we were collecting the signatures, and what they saw, the park, is just people, they saw it as a place to meet. That's really what they saw it. And I don't want to take up too much of your time because I'm sure it's late.
Just maybe to your question then. The question
and
is...
my question was, surely council can see that preserving this land is more than about the land itself. It's about safeguarding the cohesion, well-being and spirit of Belmont.
Thank you, Bernice. I'll refer to our CEO to respond.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Catherine Talbot.
Hello, and thank you for hearing my questions tonight. Tonight, as we just heard, we're presenting a petition from local residents of Belmont that says they want to keep 5A Dean Street as parkland and have further consultation of how that might look and be utilised. Some want playgrounds, others want netball, basketball, shooting space, that's me. Some a community garden, and others want gardens, seating and a barbecue area, or a combination of things. Our petition that we ran for only 2 weeks obtained 542 signatures, and since submitting a week ago, it's gained more signatures online, pushing it over 550. Back in 2022, we also provided a petition, ran over a much longer period of time with 827 signatures on the same matter. Council did a consultation and 80% of residents with a connection to the site were opposed to it being developed. Many other opinions came from those who did not live in the local area near Dean Street. Recently, Mayor Kunjal was on ABC Radio, heard that last week, and he discussed housing in Geelong with the push for 128,600 more homes by 2051, with a large percentage coming from infill housing. Also discussed were the problems the council is facing with infrastructure, such as sewers for stormwater and flooding. With that in mind, as per our petition, we ask that this parkland is retained to be utilised for solely this purpose, to cater for current residents and those future residents. This is what they're asking for and have indicated by signing our petition. Now, I spoke to someone this morning and she said I could raise this. I also I was alerted to this just today, that Oberon Primary School across the road used the space for the off-site evacuation point, so a code orange as per DET. So there's 230 students at Oberon Primary School, and next year an extra 99 kinder children will be on site at any one time. The only other alternative is Winter Reserve across Settlement Road Highway, 1 kilometre away in open space. Now, my second question is, City of Greater Geelong aims for 90% of urban dwellings to be within 400 metres of public open space by 2047 as a measure of success for its future development. And according to the Vic Government, why green space is required is for livability and wellbeing. They improve urban livability, enhance community wellbeing and contribute to a higher quality of life. Environmental performance, they reduce energy needs, manage rainwater, filter pollutants and mitigate the heat island effect. And for biodiversity, they provide habitat for plants and wildlife, supporting urban ecosystems. It needs to be maintained and further developed as green space to meet the needs of our current and future community. Currently, to access parkland, residents must drive. My own experience with younger kids, I had to drive to parkland as our walking was just too much or too far for the kids. During the day, the local school isn't accessible, and I've lost count of the number of playdates and birthday parties that local Belmont Oberon Primary School families are hosting from the local area that I've attended in Warralilly or Grovedale, as they're more inviting spaces. During COVID, we saw how valuable parks were. I attended gym classes at Coolabah Park with the lovely Paula, actually, at the helm, and a big stereo, as well as many other. And when we realised the need for parks, Dean Street is used as a passive open space. I, as well as many others, utilise the space to walk my dogs and kick a footy with my son. We need a space that's inviting and caters for all ages to develop and enhance community connections. I ask Council to consider this when deciding the future of this space. Thank you.
Catherine, I'll hand over to the CEO ostensibly to respond in a similar way to before.
Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. As mentioned in the
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there Shane Maloney here this evening? No. That then, I think, concludes the questions that were submitted. We then move into petitions and joint letters. I missed something?
Submitted to Mr. Street. Submitted number 2, Mr. Street.
No, Charles, you weren't expecting to ask a question this evening, were you? I think you've had yours responded to. Oh, well, thank you. Great, thank you, yeah. No, I saw Charles was there, but I was told by officers that they were able to deal with Charles separately and more specially. Right, so we go back to the petition. So I now invite Councillor Sinclair to speak on behalf of residents in tabling the petition that you can speak to in relation to Barwon and South West Homeless Network.
Yes, so I believe I am receiving 2 petitions tonight as the Ward Councillor for Charlemont. I won't speak beyond what the content of the petition is for the first one. And I won't speak on them too broadly for either, given that we do anticipate reports coming back to the next council meeting. But the first petition I have is from the Barwon and Southwest Homelessness Network, Public and Community Housing Petition. And I'm just going to read directly from the petition. There are over 7,000 households on priority applications in the Victorian Housing Register in the Barwon broadbands. This list is for people who are already homeless and for women and children who have survived family violence. In 2020, the City of Greater Geelong committed to build 675 properties per year for the next 10 years to meet the current demand. This petition is to support the urgency of building public and community housing as housing ends homelessness. And so the action that they would like taken is the City of Greater Geelong endorsed the social housing plan in 2020 after consultation with the community. The endorsed plan identified 3 sites to be developed into social housing. These sites were the first of 42 sites in total for the building of public and community housing in the city. The City of Greater Geelong should not sell 5A Dean Street in Belmont and 2 to 14 Rollins Road in Bellpost Hill. Will the City of Greater Geelong use its options under the Environment and Planning Act to stop the sale of these properties and to build social housing to house people who do not have a home? The Barwon Homelessness Network is not aware of any social housing that has been delivered by the City since 2020. Can Council outline if there has been any social housing delivered by the City rather than the Victorian Government since that time? So that's the petition.
So that's the first. And then there's a second petition, Councillor Sinclair, that you'll be speaking to, namely to protect 5A Dean Street, Belmont.
Yes. Do the petitioners speak, or do I just read it out again?
If you want, you can read it if you like.
So the second petition, as again, I'm not going to speak more broadly than the petition itself, as we anticipate that this will come up in the next council meeting, but I do want to acknowledge that we have Catherine and Bernice here and the work that you've put together to build this petition. So just reading the people who's, so we call on the City of Greater Geelong to retain, number 1, retain 5A Dean Street in public ownership and designate it as open space for the benefit of community. And 2, undertake further community consultation to explore positive uses of land, such as a neighbourhood park, playground, community garden or gathering space for families, schools and aged care residents. And the supporting reasons listed, so limited local open space. Belmont has very few accessible green areas. Retaining this site would provide a safe parkland where children, families and older residents can connect with nature and each other. The council strategies, keeping and planting the land aligns with Council's urban tree canopy and climate goals, including 20% coverage by 2030 and 25% by 2045. Environmental and drainage benefits. Using the land as parkland with trees and permeable surfaces would help manage stormwater and reduce flooding in an area already prone to significant drainage issues. And traffic and safety. Retaining this land avoids adding vehicles or parking demand to streets that are already congested, particularly near Oberon Primary School and the adjacent aged care facility. And so that's 542 signatures to that one.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. So we take those as having been tabled. So we now move into the substantive reports under section 2, and the first matter is councillor appointments to portfolios and committees. Can I have a mover, Councillor Story, and Councillor Nelson to second? Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an important adjustment and realignment to the work of council. You'll see here that it's titled Councillor Appointments to Portfolios and Committees, and I'd like to thank the officers who've assisted in particularly the work involved in the new committee. They've been extremely helpful. So the purpose of this report is and this motion is to adopt the amendments to portfolio appointments as outlined in attachment 1, to approve the establishment of the Environment and Circular Economy Advisory Committee and supporting terms of reference in attachment 4 to support the objectives of the council plan, to adopt updated councillor appointments to committees incorporating the Environment and Circular Economy Advisory Committee and alignment of continuing committees with the council plan as outlined in attachment 2, to formally retire the advisory committees listed in attachment 3. The work of these committees will be subsumed largely into the new committee. The council will recollect that in 10th of December 2024, Council resolved to appoint councillors to the position of Chair and Deputy Chair for each portfolio and appoint councillors to various committees. The adoption of the new council plan in July 2025 indicated that there was a need for amendments and alignments to relate to this new council plan. Importantly, and the crux of this report is the new committee, the Environment and Circular Economy Advisory Committee. This committee will provide strategic advice to Council on protecting and enhancing Greater Geelong's unique natural environment while fostering a sustainable, climate-resilient and economically vibrant community. The committee supports strategies to address climate change, promote a circular economy and encourage responsible resource use. This includes supporting sustainable agricultural and environmental practices in rural and peri-urban areas, recognising their role in resilience, innovation and local job creation. It also champions initiatives such as urban forestry, biodiversity conservation and sustainable design and community development, ensuring environmental stewardship is embedded in the city's growth, infrastructure and prosperity. The establishment of the committee is formally supported by the terms of reference outlined in Attachment 4. Mr Mayor, this is a necessary and important adjustment of the network of portfolios and committees that assist in the work of Council. It will materially assist in that work, and I commend the motion to the Chamber.
Councillor Story, can I just maybe get the seconder away and then we'll hear Councillor Nelson?
I'll reserve my right, Mr Mayor.
Okay, so now, Councillor Sinclair, you were saying?
Thank you. I've got a slight amendment, if I may. Yeah, so I've got an amendment to point 3, where there's an additional item to add myself, Councillor Emma Sinclair, to be added as a second alternative Deputy Chair for the Environment and Circular Economy Advisory Committee, and that these changes with amendments reflect the revised Advisory Committee structure. So just a really brief amendment to join my colleagues, Councillor Story and Councillor Wilkinson, on the Circular Economy and Environment Committee.
I have a seconder to that, Councillor Wilkinson. So is that in effect, that's the effect of it. Anyone else, did Councillor Wilkinson want to say something?
Just that it was very well explained by Councillor Story, so thank you for that. And I am very excited about this committee and incredibly grateful to our governance team for the terms of reference and the work that's been undertaken to create this advisory committee. So looking forward to it.
Anyone wishing to speak against? With that, we'll put it to the vote. So those in favour of the amendment? So that then becomes the substantive motion, and so I'll open up again. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. It's actually really important what we're doing tonight in re-establishing our advisory committees, because in fact it's been over 12 months since, in fact it was 12 months ago that caretaker period was introduced into the City of Greater Geelong for a 30-day period, which meant all of our advisory committees have now been, they've been paused for over a 12-month period. What we do know is that better decision making is actually made by having broad community advice received, and the committees that are put forward are extremely important for us as councillors to be making informed and better decisions. I actually feel like tonight is, we've just had the World Championships over in Tokyo, and I actually feel like the starter's gun has actually been fired off tonight in terms of how the council group wishes to perform its portfolio duties, and also the advisory committees, how we're going to actually work with the community to actually influence outcomes and positive decision making of the council group. On a personal level, I'm really excited that I'm going to be chair of major projects and special projects in the City of Greater Geelong, and I'm really jumping at the bit and have been for quite a long time to activate that particular portfolio. And on a personal level, as someone living with a disability and actively involved in the community, I'm really proud that the Disability Access and Inclusion Committee is actually going to be continuing, and it does play a very important role in the community in Geelong. we have the NDIA and we have WorkSafe and we have TRC, which are dealing with a lot of people with either acquired disabilities or a lived disability from birth. And we have a responsibility in Geelong to actually be the national leader in access and inclusion, and I look forward to working with that committee again, and as the chair of that committee, to actually make sure we fulfil our responsibilities in that area. Thank you.
Councillor Aiken. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Story, over to you to close, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to my colleague, Councillor Aitken, for his enthusiasm, and we hope to sort of be able to bottle a little bit of that, and can we borrow a little bit of it for our committee as well? Is that okay? Look, this shows the agility of this council, I think, Mr Mayor, to be able to respond to changing demands and needs, and going out to the community produces our council plan that sets us on a slightly different path, and this is a clear example of adjustment, agility and adroitness. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, so put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The next item, dealing with exploring of tree protection on private land. Have a mover. Councillor Nelson moves. Councillor Katos second. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The city recognises that trees are a critical piece of urban infrastructure. They can assist with mitigating the impacts of climate change. And as we all know, in 2024 and in 2025, the City of Greater Geelong has secured a status for a second year, as I said, of Tree City of the World by the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organisation. A few years ago, I managed to secure $1 million in our budget for the Million Trees project, and that's an overarching project to plant as many trees as we possibly can in our municipality. It's an ambitious target, but it's something that I think we really owe it to the citizens of this great city to do, and increase our urban forest across the municipality. And I'll leave it to my fellow councillors to discuss this further, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Katos.
I'll reserve my right.
Thank you. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Wilkinson.
Yep, I would like to put forward an amendment to the motion, just a slight change. I'd like to put forward and ask the amendment to be displayed on the screen now. In section 4, supports the refresh of the urban forestry strategy in 2025, including initiatives for community education resources that promote the value, benefits and importance of trees on both private and public land.
Those couple of words deleted and new word.
Clarify.
Yeah. So have a seconder, Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Wilkinson, did you wish to explain?
Thank you. Yes, just to give some context to this, this motion, back in 2022, there was a notice of motion from a council meeting seeking to explore greater protection for trees on private land. It came back in the 27th of February in 2024 meeting, and then it was resolved to go out for greater community engagement with community organisations trying to strengthen the tree protection on private land. We had 324 survey participants as part of that and 6 submissions. And while this was being compiled, the state government proposed to deliver action by increasing the tree canopy cover, and on the 15th of September 2025, an amendment VC 289 introduced clause 52.37 canopy trees to all planning schemes. So the clause requires a planning permit to remove, destroy or lop a canopy tree in specific circumstances. The requirement applies to all residential zones except for low density residential zones. So in essence, Council is responsible for issuing permits and fines for these applications. So the application for a planning permit is through the Vic Smart assessment process, which is a 10-day process. And the definition of a canopy tree, as per the requirements of the report, is a height of more than 5 metres above the ground level, a trunk circumference of more than 0.5 metres, measured at 1.4 metres above the ground level, and a canopy diameter of about 4 metres. So given the responsibility in terms of council to monitor and resource the the effectiveness of this plan and undertake this enforcement by way of protecting trees on private land. We are right in the centre of it. The report also notes that the review of the urban forestry is underway as we speak, and there will be the possibility for further engagement with the community, and we welcome that in terms of that urban forest review.
Councillor Wilkinson. Now, Councillor Sinclair, did you wish to speak to this proposed amendment?
I think Councillor Wilkinson has done a very good job of summarising the amendment and the substantive motion. So I have nothing further to add at this stage.
Anyone else wishing to speak against the proposed amendment? If not, we'll put it to the vote. So all those in favour of the proposed amendment? That's unanimous. That then becomes the substantive motion. Now, anyone wishing to speak to that with the benefit of that amendment? Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. This item actually deserves every councillor to express an opinion on it because of the significance associated with it. And for those of us that have sat in the council chamber for over the last 4 years, we have been immensely educated about the significance of trees, in particular on private land as well too. I think the state government's intervention through the Plan for Victoria amendment is welcomed by all local governments in that there is a clear direction now that there does need to be a planning permit for the removal of a private tree if it meets a certain requirement. I do hope I support the amendment and item 4 because I still believe there's more we probably need to do in relation to private land in Geelong. We have been lobbied significantly to have a significant tree register that actually identifies both private trees and public trees. We've already got a lot of the data associated with public land, but it'd be really good to get an understanding, instead of being reactionary, which is essentially what a planning permit process will do. I think for us, we need to explore other opportunities to show our genuineness. We have been designated a city of trees, and it shouldn't be that we just accept the baseline responsibilities associated with management of private and public land. If there are further examples that we can do, and I hope that the refresh of the urban forestry strategy does bring back some more actions that we can actually do in terms of private tree intervention. And I think one of those would be to have complete transparency in Geelong about a significant tree register that covers both public and private trees that operate within the city of Greater Geelong. I'm sure the community and those people that are advocating for the council to be involved more significantly and live up to its aspirations of being a tree city will actually lobby us and influence us as well too. But this is it's a very small step forward tonight, what we're doing. I think we can do a lot more, and I encourage the council group to consider that we should be doing a lot more as well too.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Any other councillor wishing to speak on the matter? Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support the motion and the amendment tonight, but I think the greatest problem we have with trees on properties at the moment, particularly in greenfield sites, is the size of our lots. They're far too small, and they're not encouraging trees to be planted. You've got 300 square metre lots, 350 square metre lots. By the time you get a house on a driveway, where is there room to plant a tree? Unlike when you go through, for example, some of the southern suburbs I represent, Grovedale, Warren Ponds, and even Belmont Height, and larger blocks, you've got some beautiful trees on there. And I think it's incumbent on the state government. They have forced these smaller lots and larger yields per hectare onto developers and also councils, but the result is we have a sea of roofs and not a tree in sight. And I think it's a real problem in our growth areas, because if you walk around them, apart from remnant vegetation which has been left, where do you plant a tree when you've got 350 square metres of land? So I think the state government really needs to rethink their strategies around lot size, because if you've got some bigger lots in amongst them, not every lot can be big, I'm a firm believer that lots should be cater for all sizes, small, medium and large. But if you've got some bigger lots, you'll have, over time, you will have some beautiful trees growing in our neighbourhoods.
Curtis. Councillor Edikontel.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm comfortable with the report as it's put. I think we've responded to the requests from the community and have also taken on board the feedback. I think it's appropriate and obviously needed that we've added in the new regulations being brought in by the state government. Having said that, I think we just need to be careful that we're not putting ourselves in a position of overreaching. There's far too many regulations on people as it is already, and when people own their own block of land and may have owned it for generations and have planted trees in various locations, some of them might be in rural areas, they should be the ones that make the decision on what happens with those trees. If they need to clear them, if they need to cut them back for safety reasons, for damage to infrastructure, the changes that they're making on their parcel of land, it shouldn't be for council to be telling people what to do with their own blocks of land, particularly in retrospect when people have had these pieces of land for many, many years. So I think the report is appropriate as it is, and we need to make sure that we don't, as I said before, put ourselves in a position of overreaching and telling people what to do with their own assets.
So, Contel. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Others, we go back to Councillor Nelson to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just trying to find the actual target in Plan for Victoria for the urban forest canopy strategy. I know we're on target to meet it. I think it was 17%, but I may be wrong. Yes, we need to increase our tree canopy. We need to plant more trees. There's a lot of trees, certainly in Highton, that are reaching the end of their life, so we need to get planting more trees, and the best time to start is yesterday. So I'll leave it at that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. So put that to the vote. Those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. The next item is priority projects. Councillor Sullivan moves and Councillor Burson second. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. What we have here before us is a list of priority projects that the City will be taking to the 2026 state election. There will be our priority projects between now and then as well, but that is a major focus for getting this work in order for that time. There's so many worthwhile projects on here, projects that we've been advocating for quite a long time, from Avalon Airport to the Ballerine Link, to the Geelong Gallery. The Regional Investment Fund is a new one there, but it aligns with our other strategic partners. The CBD truck bypass, regional soccer facility, and the RISEC as well as other policy platforms such as library funding and now Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund as well. It's great to see there's some new priorities in here that reflect our evolving and growing community. However, a lot of the ones I have just mentioned have been on our priority projects, not just for years, but actually some of them transcend election cycles. Now that shows you two things. First of all, that we as a council year after year do have faith in these projects, and we have faith that they are actually what our community need and deserve. And the second part of that is that the state government and other governments as well are fully aware that this is what we need, that is what our community deserve as a growing area, and that these are things that eventually will have to be funded. Now, City of Greater Geelong is a greater area. You know, we have a population greater than Hobart, we have a population greater than Darwin, and by 2041 targets, we'll have a population that is as large as both currently combined. We need serious investment in our growing community. We're one of the fastest growing ones in Australia. And this isn't a wish list of nice to haves. This is a wish list of what we need. And to quote Councillor Nelson just before, the best time to get these started would have been yesterday as commitment fundings from the state governments and others as well. They not only hit just community infrastructure, but our transport, about our business sector, but everything we need to actually cater to the large city that we are. You know, we're not a small rural town anymore. We're not just a regional city. We are a city in our own right, and we deserve the equal attention of that. You know, regional Victoria has 20% of Victoria's population. we produce 20% of the gross regional product of the state, but we still only receive, on estimates, 13 to 14% of the state budgetary funding. So we're 35% behind the 8 ball, just immediately off the bat, and that needs to change. And that's why a lot of the priorities in here reflect what we need as a community. It's great to see, as I said, the alignment for the $1 billion regional fund with Regional Cities Victoria, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing some commitments from our state counterparts up there and reflecting their faith that they have in Geelong as well. Thank you.
Sullivan, good presentation. Councillor Burson.
Yeah, thanks very much. Basically what Trent said, but I'm also really excited to see if either government actually offers something in the north, which would be a great change. That's about it, really. Yeah, good luck, everyone in the south.
Any councillor wish to add to that? Councillor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This document is actually being referred to as a wish list. I actually don't think it is a wish list. This is actually a partnership list. This is actually an opportunity for the state government, the federal government, the community and the business community for particular projects to partner together to actually deliver the aspirations of the community and the regional city that we are in Geelong. And if we can actually emphasise that this is a partnership, we will be able to deliver all of these projects, and it won't be just seen as a wish list. This is a genuine attempt to actually say to the state government and to the broader Geelong community that these are projects we wish to partner on and deliver benefit for our broader community. And what is the second part of public statement I wish to make is that if you look at the document, the diversity of what's actually been presented, it's been a very long time that I've seen a partnership list as diverse as this, and it actually reflects each of the individual councillors that sit here at the table tonight. I'm very proud to actually say that I was able to elevate the Watherong project as a priority. I'm very proud to actually say that I was able to elevate the policy position about social housing and mandatory inclusion zoning onto this particular document. I'm also very proud that the northern suburbs is actually being strongly advocated for in terms of the mental health facility with Barwon Health as well too. And if you go through all of these projects, each councillor has had an opportunity to influence the outcome of what's been presented before us tonight. And hopefully we will hear from other councillors that have an interest in projects as well too. We have previously spoken about the significance of the expansion of the art gallery and the restoration of City Hall as the pinnacle of civic leadership in the city of Greater Geelong. That project continues to be there and certainly has been ignored by the state government up until now, and we do have to continue to prioritise that particular project. But what I'm also pleased tonight as well too, this is actually the first time that we've publicly been able to talk about our ambitions in terms of the regional indoor sports and entertainment centre. But up until now, we haven't been able to publicly talk about it. It is a significant position of this council. We have said we do not support the proposition that has been flagged in the community about establishing that facility at Cardinia Park. We are ruling that out. We are actually saying our evidence and the advice that we received from our officers is that that project should be delivered at the existing arena site. It should be used as a revitalisation project for that area, and we should partner with the state government to actually utilise. We have a train station, we have other redevelopment sites associated with the sale yards, and we have a great opportunity to actually revitalise and renew that part of northern Geelong. And as a consequence, that's why all of these projects are partnership projects. They're actually an opportunity to partner with the business community, the broader community, the state government and the federal government to actually deliver and actually be the livable and creative and caring community that we want in the city of Greater Geelong. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Aiken. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, look, I'm happy to support this motion before the chamber tonight, and I do note the Regional Infrastructure Fund. There actually was one of those in place, the Regional Growth Fund, and it was actually scrapped by the current government when they came to office in 2015. So there was a $1 billion Regional Growth Fund in place, which a lot of the library just here was funded from that regional growth fund. So I think that is critical to getting money back out into the regions, because unfortunately at the moment we have a rail tunnel in Melbourne that is sucking up all the money that should be going out to the regions and to these very important projects in one of the fastest growing areas in Australia. So these need to be done. On a local level in my ward in Deakin, obviously Mount Duneed Secondary College, the Mayor was on a current affair with that, prosecuting that case. That's something that needs to be built now. And also, look, in that area, unfortunately, there's a bit of a track record of not fulfilling promises. It's not just the secondary school. A fire station was promised in 2018 for Armstrong Creek, yet to be built. An ambulance station was promised at the last state election, yet to be built. A pool was promised for the last state election, that was scrapped. So there's a track record of not funding things. So a lot of people say back in 1999 that Kennett lost because he ignored the regions. Now, in my view, the present state government clearly is ignoring the regions, as per the statistics that Councillor Sullivan put out before, and I believe they do so at their own peril. So these are important projects for Geelong. They're important for our city. It takes the pressure off Melbourne as well. We can get growth here with the right infrastructure. It's good for the whole state. So I'm very happy to support the priority projects that are put before us tonight.
Councillor Kados. Councillor Story. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I also support these estimable priority projects, but I feel bound to make the following observation. Geelong's a wonderful city that has a wonderful football team, fantastic football team. It has a wonderful hospital, it has a wonderful university, and these are all single things. They're brilliant, but they're single. But we have two performing arts centres, a great one in the city and another fantastic one, guess where, in the Bellarine. And the Potato Shed, or the Bellarine Arts Centre, needs to expand, and I've been pushing for that, as you know, and it didn't quite make it on this, but we're still pushing, because that is an area of need and growth and a way to balance the brilliant work that's done in the Performing Arts Centre in the city. So I'm just making an observation. One football team, one university, one hospital, but two art centres, and one of them's in the Bellarine, where there are 77 reserves and sporting facilities for people to play games and kick things, but only one art centre.
Sorry. You can't tell?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with most of what's been said tonight. We've seen over the years that where we are able to make quantum leaps forward in infrastructure projects is when we partner with other levels of government, as Councillor Aitken already mentioned. We've got examples of that with the library that was delivered. We've got examples of that with GMHBA Stadium. We've got examples of that, most recent being the convention centre that's being built, the Yacht Club. All of those types of projects is where we've partnered with other levels of government to deliver quantum changes in those areas. And so I think we're much more organised this time round with this priority list of projects that we're putting forward. We've been criticised in the past in perhaps having too many voices around the table, too many voices in the town, not being on the same page. But I think this gives clear direction to the politicians as they head into the election that's coming next year and beyond. We should be known as a regional sporting hub. We should be known as that. We shouldn't be compared to Bendigo. We shouldn't be compared to Ballarat. We shouldn't be compared to Werribee. And so the fact that we have the major regional facilities on here, being the soccer facility, the baseball, the indoor sport and events, that is appropriate that they are here, because we need to be punching at that level. Fastest growing city in Australia, second largest city in Victoria, we should be having those types of facilities here. So absolutely, like everyone else, very, very supportive of what's on here, and it really gives us one page that we can all talk of with one voice as we're talking to our politicians over the next 12, 24, 36 months.
So you can't tell. Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just briefly wanted to touch on, we've spoken a lot about the infrastructure projects that we're advocating for, but supporting infrastructure is obviously community cohesion, and there's a lot of policy reform initiatives that we are advocating for as a council group, and Councillor Aitken touched on the minimum mandatory inclusionary zoning for social housing and how critical that is for Geelong as we enter a rapid growth period. We expect to almost double in size by 2050. We need that planning change now so we can work with developers to make sure that we have the affordable and social housing built into these new growth areas, and we need that now. Some of the other policies that we're advocating for, some additional library funding. The state government hasn't increased funding for our libraries, and it is one of our most treasured community resources where we have early education, we have so much social connection happening in these places. So really pleased to see this on our policy reform positioning as well. As well as a few other around stormwater management and transfer, coastal management reform, and we've spoken, I think, quite a few times about the purple bins and how we can change options around glass recycling. So really great that we're looking at policy, not just CapEx infrastructure projects.
Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Wilkinson.
Just very briefly, because I think everybody has already said things that I would already say, but just to go back to that concept of us being clever, creative and caring, I think this list covers off all of those elements and is really, really important to sort of look at policy as well as infrastructure, and I'm very proud to see a lot of this advocacy in place. Really very important. In terms of coastal management, just to reiterate that, you know, we've now seen the climate change assessment come across with some startling figures in terms of coastal inundation and erosion. This is going to take all levels of government to actually really monitor, review and strengthen our communities in this space. So thank you.
Wilkinson. Is everyone wishing to speak has now spoken? Councillor Sullivan, I think back to you to close.
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to all my fellow councillors who've commented and contributed as well, including with areas of policy development and various other projects as well. Now, this is our priority project list. It's not all of our projects. As we get closer to the state government election, there'll be undoubtedly further projects arising or, themes gained from the state government as to what they'll be looking to do to funding for the year ahead and what other parties will be looking to as well that we can try to gather election commitments from as well. So it's always a bit of chess moving forwards on what will be funded and what may be ruled out from those above us. But all of these here are worthy, and there's all of other projects that are worthy as well. So there'll be these ones which we're championing, but we have to be clever and creative, we have to be innovative, we have to be agile, and we have to be ready to work with parliamentarians above us for other projects that they may wish to fund as well. But here's our spearhead, here's what we'll be moving forward with, and I'm glad to see that we're very much aligned with all of our advocacy bodies, so there'll be plenty of hands, plenty of drivers behind the wheel pushing this message forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Just before I put it to the vote, I'll just put on the record thanks to the officers for the great work in facilitating this program. As a number of councillors have said, we felt a little bit underprepared for the federal election and scrambled a little bit, and that's for different reasons, but this time we are definitely ahead of the curve. We are some 15 months out, but by being prepared as we are gives us every chance to succeed, because we have lots of opportunities to talk as a group in different circles, and so please socialise the messages that we see in the projects here in your circles of influence. You just don't know which conversation will have that impact with which politician, and we all have our own groups that we mix with. But good work from the officers, and Councillor Wilkinson said, as a clever, creative city, you would expect nothing less than to be very well prepared like we are this time. And to have everything collated together like this, I think articulates a very clear vision where we're heading as a city and which projects we need to enable us to continue to drive forward for the next 25 years as the fastest growing region in Australia. So we put that to the vote. All those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. We then move to the new heritage overlays. Councillor Katos and Councillor Story second. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So under this motion before us this evening, we'll adopt the Outer Areas Heritage Assessment Study as per the attachment in the report, and we will forward this request to the Minister for Planning to authorise preparation and also exhibition of the planning scheme amendment to add 20 places into the heritage overlay in the Greater Geelong planning scheme. So the first study was done back in 2000, and then another study has been done in 2025, where 34 locations around Geelong were looked at. Of those 34, it was recommended to have 20 put in to the heritage overlay, and these 20 places reflect 19th century development, 20th century migration to Geelong, and also building Geelong's community life. And I must admit, I looked through the reports there, and one of the places in there is actually my church, the Dormition of Our Lady Greek Orthodox Church in Talisker Avenue in Hamlin Heights. And I remember, I was actually reading through it, and my great uncle actually purchased the land, which I didn't realise. So I learnt something there of interest. And I still remember as a boy watching that being done, because I was baptised in what's now the hall and married in what's now the church. So, because the little hall next door used to be the church. And I still recall a rooster being sacrificed in the, because it's in the report, a rooster being sacrificed in the foundations of the church. And what that does, it actually is a blessing to the saints, and it wards off evil. So it was actually, I watched it being done as a kid. It was a bit disturbing, but as a child, but it was method to the madness, because the church is still there and going strong. But there's also a number in my ward, the Grovedale Public Cemetery in Deakin Ward, which really demonstrates the German influence in Grovedale, which was originally called Germantown up until World War I. And then obviously Germany wasn't the flavour of the month after the First World War, and it was changed to Grovedale. But that reflects the German and Lutheran influence, particularly in Grovedale. There is a lot of influence there. And probably the other one there is the Queen's Park Bridge, which has been put there as heritage overlay. Very warranted overlay, but I think the bridge should remain, but we need a modern road bridge built next to it. I think Geelong has grown. Happy to keep that bridge as a pedestrian and cycling thoroughfare, but really anyone that uses that bridge on a regular basis is very frustrated by it. There's been significant growth in Geelong, particularly in the west and other side of Highton and Wandana Heights, and I think it's about time that a second road bridge was built, and the Queen's Park Bridge maintained for its heritage value and as a cycling and pedestrian. What should have been done in Bowen Heads many years ago, but wasn't. If the old Bowen Heads Bridge had been kept years ago, you could have had cycling, fishing and pedestrians on it, and you could have built a normal road bridge right next to it. But alas, we have the two-bridge solution in Queen's Park, in Bowen Heads, but essentially this would be a two-bridge solution here, but I think it's time that was seriously considered by the state government as far as Queen's Park goes. So of these, the people who, all of these areas and buildings, etc., that were recommended for the heritage study, all of the owners were consulted. Some were happy with it, others wanted more time, some did not want their properties to be listed. Some were in a poor state, or deviated so far from the original building that they weren't warranted with the heritage overlay. So yes, I'm happy to support this and support preparation of the exhibition of the amendment, and then people can certainly have their say on the amendment to add these properties to the heritage overlays in Geelong.
Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Katos, for your eloquent and heartfelt exposition there. Very little to add to that, Mr Mayor, except that it's interesting to note that of the 20 places that survived this rigorous and careful and thorough process, and it is a very thorough process, 4 are publicly owned, 2 are owned by us, the City of Greater Geelong, 1 is owned by a trust and 1 by the state government, 10 are owned by religious organisations, and all others, which I think, if my maths is correct, is 3, are privately owned. So it's interesting to see the breakdown. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Story. Any other councillor wishing to make a comment? If not, Councillor Kados, back to you to close.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
All right. So put it to the vote. Those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. The next one is our community plan 2021-25 quarterly report to June 2025. Councillor Sinclair moves. Councillor Aiken second. Councillor Sinclair.
Mayor, so this marks the completion of our 4-year plan that has guided the city's priorities across health, community, economy, environment and governance from 2021 to 2025. It's been pretty successful. Out of the 58 actions, 41 have been fully completed and 15 are ongoing and carried over into the new community plan. And only 2 are not proceeding. So that means 70% of the plans have already been delivered and the rest are transferring over to our next community plan, as this is the last update. So I wanted to extend congratulations and thank you to all of the officers and managers that delivered the community plan. In terms of, I guess, some of the highlights, so we had 4 pillars in this plan: healthy, caring and inclusive communities, of which highlights for me were the Rainbow Action Plan delivered quite recently. There is the Fair Access Policy and Disability Action Plan. So all of these remove barriers to different areas within our community and help us be a more equitable city. I do note one of the ones that is carried over into the next community plan is the Reconciliation Action Plan. So that, of course, relates to reconciliation with First Nations communities, and really noting that we want to make sure that this is given priority, especially as we anticipate treaty legislation coming into play over the next few months. So we really want to position ourselves well to develop that reconciliation plan and to be able to enter those treaty negotiations that we anticipate to happen at a local level. In terms of sustainable growth and environment, which is the next pillar, we have a partnership with Geelong Sustainability that has been award-winning with the Geelong Electric Homes program, which has led to significant uptake of solar energy within our community. And we've spoken about our fantastic FOGO facility out at Anarchy many times during these meetings. For strong local economies, we've provided a number of business grants and clean economy grants and initiatives that are focused on tourism in the Bellarine. And our final pillar, which was a high-performing council and organisation, I think is reflected by the number of complete actions and delivered items under the previous council plan. So looking forward to next quarter when we start to look at the council plan that has been produced by this council group, but want to congratulate the city and all of the officers that have brought the 2021 to 2025 community plan to fruition.
Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. This is actually the last report associated with our city plan from 2021 to 2025, and we're focusing on data, but if you actually go back to 2021, we were actually still in COVID for the second time. We were experiencing lockdowns, and to actually look back at the last 4 years and see we've had significant change in the executive leadership. We've had a council election that caused significant change in terms of the governance individuals. We've had monitors appointments and monitors removed. And when you stand back and have a look at it, it's quite amazing how much has really genuinely been achieved when there's been so much change and distraction and other areas that have diverted the council away from what primarily is its core responsibility, which is to deliver of its city plan. So I'm encouraged when you take a historical view of this particular document and sit back and actually see what actually did occur during all of those years. The city is a very robust organisation. The council group is certainly a very robust council group to actually exist during those periods. I don't think I will ever forget what it was like being an elected official during COVID, because it was extremely difficult. And we did have to make significant decisions about priority and also how we actually continued to deliver critical services during a period where none of us had actually had experience in that before. So the 2021 to 2025 community report plan is quite significant. I think we'll have a better understanding of how important it really was and how well we really did do when we've had all of those external environmental influences that were happening on the city. And I look forward that we're now starting our new city plan, and that the future reports that come before this council will be associated with the plan that this particular council group has actually adopted. And we can focus on delivering those projects that we have a strong interest and passion for, and ultimately benefiting the broader Geelong community.
Councillor Aiken. Any other councillor wishing to speak? No. If not, Councillor Sinclair to close.
Nothing further.
All right, so we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? It's carried unanimously. The next item is the outdoor dining policy and guidelines. Councillor Eddie Contell and Councillor Nelson to second. Councillor Eddie Contell.
Thank you. Look, outdoor dining is not a new concept, obviously, and it's always been quite popular in all areas of the world. We just touched on COVID. During COVID, though, that was when it really got utilised to its furthest extent, because at times where you were only able to socialise when you were outside, and so as such we saw more and more adoption of traders, whether they be hospitality, venues, cafes, restaurants, things of that nature, or businesses of that nature, that were testing us further and further in what they could or couldn't do, how they wanted to go about trading in their business. And so in 2022 we commenced the project that we're talking about adopting tonight, which was really to review best practices in terms of adopting outdoor dining guidelines. And so this occurred with consultation from the community, with traders, with emergency service providers, other stakeholders, and we then it then informed the guidelines that we drafted at that time. We then had further feedback which informed the guidelines further in 2025. We adopted those. And really this policy, the policy of guidelines, is to provide a clear and consistent framework for business owners, for traders, for hospitality operators to be able to make the most of their footprint in terms of outdoor dining, in terms of using public space for those activities. And they're designed in a manner that embraces safety. It also takes into consideration inclusiveness, accessibility, vibrance, but also the business's needs. And so it serves as a guide for businesses wanting to extend their services into public realm. And one of the important aspects of this report, and something that was brought to our attention on quite a number of occasions, was the aspect of al fresco to the wall, as it was called. I think we call it what do we call it? We call it zone in front of business area, which allows the business owners to be able to use from the edge of their building outside out into the pedestrian zone. And so that gives them a lot more space, a lot more area to work with, provides our community more options in terms of outdoor dining. And it was something that was requested of us on quite a number of occasions, particularly post-COVID, and particularly in the area of Little Mallock Street, as an example. So I'm well aware in talking to some of those operators that they're really in favour of some of the changes that we've made with these guidelines. And so really I'll just leave it to my fellow councillors to make comment if they choose to, but otherwise my understanding is that it's been well received, and I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Eddie Contell. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Eddie Contell has pretty much said everything I was going to say with regard to the community feedback we undertook in 2022 and 2025. We got strong feedback that said that traders wanted to have more permanent alfresco areas in the public realm because that provides economic development, gives surety to those small businesses. It allows them to operate both winter and summer, and it just looks good. It looks good when you've got permanent outdoor structures that obviously you have to tick all the boxes through the planning department, but the great cities of the world have really good alfresco dining areas, and finally we're moving towards that and allowing businesses to put up permanent structures, and I think it's a great thing.
Councillor Nelson. Anyone else wishing to speak? No. If not, Councillor Eddie.
Thanks. Look, just to finish off, in line with Councillor Nelson's comments, that what this does is it gives surety to the traders in what they can do, allows them to then be able to make investment decisions based on the platform that we now have to work with, and real consistency. We've seen that there's been inconsistencies over the last several years. There's been a number of those examples, particularly with pop-ups and things of that nature. This now hopefully addresses all of that. I'd like to also just thank the officers, Tennille and the team. It was a matter of sort of, Tennille's advice was quickly, slowly. So whilst we wanted it to go quicker, we also had to take a breath in between, make sure we brought the community on the journey. But I think we've ended up with a good result.
Councillor Contell. So put that to the vote. All those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. The next item is the Geelong Major Events Terms of Reference. Councillor Katos moves. Councillor Eddie Contell second. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the motion here before us this evening is to seek council endorsement for the revised GME, the Geelong Major Events Terms of Reference. The main change with the terms of reference, basically, it's been long-standing that the GME will not fund events that are not open to. It's been long-standing that the GME will not fund events that are not open to the public. But particularly with some discussions with the new convention centre that's opening, we see that there's opportunities to fund events that essentially are in that convention centre, and that's the major change. So the terms of reference will allow us to fund events that are not open to the public, provided they meet, of course, all the other funding criteria that's in the GME terms of reference, and all the requirements that are in the strategy, I should say, not terms of reference. There'll also be a small change. It's a bi-monthly cycle now, so we'll meet every 2 months, and then there'll be a briefing followed by the ordinary meeting and then the confidential section. So that'll all happen in the one evening. But by and large, that's really the major change. And also with, for example, the convention centre, there's a lot of convention centres in around Australia, so not being able to, and I just use the convention centre as an example, a lot of other local governments dangle some carrots to get events to their cities and to their local convention centres. So if we didn't change these rules, these terms of reference, there'd be no ability to be able to fund some of these events that are coming to the potentially to the convention centre particularly, and we could potentially lose them to other parts of Australia where they are dangling carrots and handing out funds to as incentives to come to their respective cities. So with that, look, I commend the motion and yeah.
Councillor Katos. Councillor Eddie Contell.
Nothing further.
Nothing further. Anyone else wishing to make any comment? If not, Councillor Katos.
No, nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. Then the next item is the proposed sale of land 94, the Parade, Ocean Grove. Have a mover by Councillor Sullivan, second Councillor Katos. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Moving this one for the purpose of the debate, and as stated, is the proposed sale of land for 94 The Parade, 89-91 The Terrace, Ocean Grove. This is a process in line with the Ocean Grove Urban Design Framework that was adopted by Council back in 2014. It shows the proposed implementation of the recommendations of that Act as a catalyst for the redevelopment of the land here, with traffic changes up that way, a bit of realignment and changes around parking as well. We went up to community consultation, as we always do, and we received 90 submissions of it, 10 in support, and the rest of various stages of objections or proposed changes again. Submissions review panel was held and a person presented their views there. That's all common at the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Katos.
I reserve my right.
That's right. Councillor Wilkinson, you foreshadowed a
Thank you,
amendment.
Mayor. Yeah, I would like to put forward an amendment to the motion, and I'd like to amend point 2.2 of the motion and ask the amended wording be displayed on the screen now, please. So for 2.2, with conditions included in the contract of sale, that the purchaser first obtains a planning permit for the development which will incorporate the land, the developer provides for the replacement of an equivalent number of car parks in the development area and must have no charge for parking for a period of 10 years, and that the market value of the land will be invested into the uplifting the public realm in the immediate precinct.
Seconded to that, Councillor Sinclair. So now, Councillor Wilkinson, did you want to speak to that proposed amendment? Anything further to say on that? Yes, you can.
Yeah, thank you. So I suppose it's very important in terms of the decision making in considering the impact of these decisions for future generations to come. I've always considered the issues like distinctive area landscape legislation, for example, in decision making to ensure that the population growth across the Bellarine is managed within strict town boundaries, reducing urban sprawl, protecting surrounding coastal wetland and rural environments. So in doing so, acknowledging that diverse accommodation options and appropriate infrastructure needs of growing community are created within these boundaries. In understanding the proposal of the sale of the car park and this parklet, it's important to understand the urban design framework. The change that has been made to this amendment is really reflective of some of the submissions that we received in terms of the loss of accessible amenity of the car park, and this is covered off in terms of the no charge for parking for 10 years. The population of Ocean Grove has seen significant growth over the years. Projections indicate that the population will surpass 24,000 by 2035. So this is indicating a really steady growth. The growth is attributed to various factors, apart from the fact that it's actually an incredible place to live, but it's really around its residential development and a growing interest in the area. The UDF looks to introduce mixed-use developments, including diverse medium-density housing in and around the town centre. It highlights the need to create a more pedestrian-friendly environment and linkages to surrounding neighbourhood. It was developed through extensive consultation with residents and adopted into the planning scheme as a long-term plan to enable its goals and ambitions to be achieved. The UDF was established back in 11 years ago, so council officers since then report that it still represents current thinking in relation to appropriate design, and council transport planner also reports the traffic changes outlined in the UDF are still relevant and reflective of current data. I suppose the purpose of the Hodgson Street upgrade is to reinvigorate the town centre, enhance the connection between all retail precincts, particularly for pedestrians, and stimulate investment. So this responds to broad community needs for sustainability and community safety. To achieve this, it is really important to understand the community needs more fully today. So I would certainly advocate in understanding and further work to be done to look at those changes in terms of the intersection and what that means for our community and the flow of traffic through there, the safety in terms of moving around. But this is one step forward in what is a lot of steps. I think Councillor Contell talked about slowly, slowly, fast, fast. This has certainly been slowly, 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 slowly. We now have a little moment of fast in terms of declaring a capacity or a propensity to sell these two pieces of land to uplift the development on that site.
Councillor Sinclair on the amendment.
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay. So anyone else wishing to speak against the amendment? For the amendment?
Speak for the amendment. I think the amendment is actually attempting to respond to the submissions and the lobbying that Council has received from the community. I mean, essentially there were three themes that came out associated with the sale of this site location. One was the loss of public open space, even though it may not be used at the present time in an organised structure. It is seen by that local community that is green, open public space. There is a secondary issue associated with potential changes to access to the site location in terms of road proposed changes to access the site to assist the sale and development of it. And of course the third area was the loss of public car parking. The recommendation that's before us and the amendment actually tries to address the public realm and public open space by actually suggesting that funds received from the sale should be used and invested into uplifting the public realm in the immediate precinct. So there is at least a response to that submission. The amendment is trying to directly address the concern about the loss of car parking by saying, and it's not to give an historic response to the council, we did exactly the same thing down on the waterfront. When you actually see the Ritz area, we actually said that there had to be retention of car parking access, and you actually see that the apartment complex that's built on the corner of Yarra and Ballerine Street, behind it, there actually is public car parking. So the city has had a precedent in the past about putting forward a proposition such as this. And of course the last one, which probably doesn't need to be, my understanding is doesn't need to be addressed in the amendment, but at some stage does need to be addressed, in that there does need to be broader discussions and understanding of the implications of actually changing the existing road network to the site location. The council, I think, does have to understand that we do need to have broader discussion about that and not just accept the only option that's been presented to us by potential developers or purchasers of the site location. Yeah.
Aiken, is there anyone else wishing to speak to the amendment or against? No. So we'll put that to the vote. That's the amendment. Those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. But that then becomes the substantive motion. And we go back to debate of that. So any other speakers? Councillor Sullivan, you get to close.
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing further. So we put that to the vote. Those in favour? So carried unanimously. It's not? Who voted against? I thought I gave you the chance to close and we put it to the vote.
I haven't had the opportunity to vote in against as yet.
Okay, so we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? So against? All right. Sorry, I thought you were speaking in favour of it. All right. So that's now carried by a majority. So the next item, proposed sale of land 59 Bacchus Marsh Road, Corio. Have a mover. Councillor Aiken, seconder. Councillor Kados, Councillor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm happy to move the motion for debate, but my position that I've actually reached before entering the meeting tonight is I'm actually going to vote against the recommendation. And that is because I think it's a missed opportunity for the council if we actually just choose to sell the site location into a marketplace. I actually do believe there are alternatives that still could be explored. I know you read the report and it says that we explored community usage for expression of interest, but the feedback came back was that it wouldn't meet community standards because it didn't have on-site parking. It was a restricted area. It was a small existing building, and the building actually had would need significant investment in it by council to be able to make it more community amenable for the broader community. The second assessment of the site location was that it didn't meet social housing requirements under our social housing policy adopted. That, I think, is a narrow response. I mean, what I certainly understand now is that the site could actually be a SIL site, which is a supported independent living site under NDIS. So the conclusion that I've actually reached is that I would prefer if we were selling this site and dedicating it specifically towards the principles of social housing and affordable housing, as opposed to just putting it on the marketplace and turning it into a residential property. So as a consequence, I'm actually voting against the recommendation. If the recommendation is lost, I encourage the council officers to come back with an alternative report at a future council meeting, which actually says that we support the sale of the site location, but we restrict the market that we're proposing in terms of the sale of that site location. If it doesn't receive council support, I am on the public record that I don't support. I think it is a significant missed opportunity to be able to expand the opportunities that exist in our community. And for those that don't know what SIL is actually supported independent living under the NDIS. And it could actually be a SIL site location because essentially it could be a residential property that's focused towards providing disability housing opportunities in that location. And we still meet our aims in terms of a sale opportunity, but we actually clearly commit to our principles about expanding social and affordable housing opportunities in Geelong.
So, Councillor Katos?
I thank Mr Mayor. So the sale of this land, 59 Bacchus Marsh Road, which is before us this evening, so it was the old Meals on Wheels site, which closed in February of 2022. So it's a single building on it, and it's in poor condition at the moment, not suitable for occupation. So essentially it would have to be knocked down. And then this parcel of land was offered, was assessed. It was found not suitable under our social housing policy because of the size of the block, the easements on it, and a flood overlay that applies as well. Emergency accommodation, it was not, the zoning does not support that, the classification, and it was also thought of for community use, and some community groups actually went and looked at the property, but they found it was just not suitable for their use because of the location, size, building condition, classification and amenity. So we can't say that the city hasn't taken this house and looked around and said, can we do something with it? And all the alternatives we've explored came back and said that the land, essentially this block is surplus to our needs. We do have the need to, as finance portfolio holder, we do have a need to continue to sell blocks of land and land that's we've deemed as being surplus. We do have significant debt we need to reduce, and that's part of our fiscal strategy. And as I said, this block has been, we've looked at it, and it's deemed not to be suitable for all these uses. So it's surplus, so we need to get on with it and put it out to market.
Mr. Katos, any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Not being in any way an expert in this field at all, Councillor Katos, can you confirm for my interest and clarification that that supported independent living option was looked at by the city?
Oh, look, Councillor, I'm just looking at I've just read the report. I don't know about the SIL option. I'm just reading the report, so I wouldn't be able to answer your question.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think the points that Councillor Katos has just raised are quite valid, but I also note the points that Councillor Aiken has just raised in regards to the SIL, which I wasn't aware of, and Councillor Story has just asked the question about whether that was considered at all. So I think there's further valid points for consideration. So on that basis, I won't be supporting this recommendation either. Thank you.
Maybe CEO, if you could just maybe give the benefit of that information in response to Councillor Story's question.
Thank you, Councillor Story, and through the Mayor. When the block of land went out for community engagement the first time, it was wide-ranging, and there are a number of housing providers and not-for-profit providers that did go through the site to determine its suitability. One of the key reasons why it was not determined suitable was because of the flood issues on that site, so it would not be supported for that purpose. Thank you.
Councillor Sinclair, then Councillor Wilkinson.
Mr Mayor, at the last meeting I did not support the proposed sale of the sale yards in North Geelong, and there were two key reasons for that. That the report that we received didn't assess the suitability for social housing, and that we didn't have enough of the historical context in terms of work that the city had completed previously around what land we owned, what assets we had that were suitable for social housing. In the interim period, this report does provide a social housing assessment in the report, and the city is also provided, and I'm very grateful that we now have access to the audit completed in 2021 that details significant assets of the city and which properties are most suitable for social housing. This is not a property that appears on that shortlist, so I'm quite comfortable progressing this towards sale today. And just noting on supported independent living, it's something we should have a policy position on, but we don't currently. It's not social housing, it is a completely different type of housing. So yeah, I think let's do some work on supported living and where the council sits in delivering that kind of supported housing, but that is not a type of housing under our affordable social housing plan.
Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Wilkinson.
I too am comfortable with the audit that's been taken place in terms of looking at this particular site in the lens of social housing. My understanding from working in the field in terms of supported disability accommodation and supported in-home living is that these properties are owned by investors, owners. They're not paid for by the NDIA or owned by the NDIA. So I don't think that there is anything standing in the way of someone actually purchasing this property and turning it into a SIL or SDA property. That's my understanding. I am not a property developer or a real estate agent, but from my experience in working with those providers every day, that's my understanding. And perhaps that's something we could do is actually proactively seek out SIL SDA providers and see whether that's something they'd be interested in owning.
Councillor Wilkinson. Anyone else wishing to speak on the matter? Councillor Aitken, you were the mover.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I think tonight's debate actually has entrenched in me that we do have a lack of understanding of what social and affordable housing, the definition does mean. We've got a very tight definition in our social housing strategy, but it can also mean SIL and other terminology as well too. And as Councillor Wilkinson said, most SIL site locations are actually provided by the private developers. And in fact, a private developer could purchase this site location because the restrictions that have been identified by the officers in terms of a flood overlay and a small site location, in fact, a SIL can receive a planning permit under a normal residential planning process. So I suppose really what I was asking the council to consider is all the options for the site, and if we genuinely, we haven't assessed it as a SIL site, essentially what I'm actually saying really to us is that vote against it and ask the officers to actually consider all the options associated with it, and we should be doing that with all of our land holdings as well too. Because we have got a significant housing crisis in the city of Greater Geelong, our holdings are extremely small. Our motivation for selling these site locations is we're saying that they're surplus to needs and we wish to reduce our borrowings. That can still be met we can actually still meet that requirement. But if we actually target that these potential sales could assist in providing social, affordable and disability housing opportunities in Geelong, I personally feel much more comfortable in presenting them under that sale model than actually just saying we'll put them into the general marketplace and try to get the best financial return we can get from. I think it's a learning experience for the organisation, and it's a learning experience for us as well too as councillors, and that's why I'm actually saying to the council group tonight, please just vote against it. It doesn't mean to say you're opposed to the sale of site locations. You're actually just encouraging the organisation to explore every single option, and we can, as a council group, make a determination that our sales actually do have some criteria on them. We've actually just done that with Ocean Grove. We've actually said that we want to have free parking for at least 10 years on that site location. What I'm actually saying on this site location is that let's do some further investigations about broader opportunities, about directions about what we could try to achieve with the site location. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. So I put that to the vote. That's the officer's recommendation that the matter be sold, despite what you've just said. So it's voting on the recommendation that's before us. Those in favour? Okay. By majority. Thank you. Next item is the provision of supplementary labour hire service. Councillor Sullivan move. Councillor Burson second. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very straightforward as in the title. The purpose of support is to award contracts for the provision of supplementary labour hire services, the preferred tenders that we'll have in that area. Due to the nature of all the services and work that we provide here, we do need supplementary labour hire, as they play a critical role in ensuring we can maintain continuity of services and cover shortages and gaps there. You know, whilst we have over 3,000 employees at City Grade Geelong, it equates to, I believe, roughly 1,800 FTE, so due to the nature of the work we provide, and so supplementary hire is part of that. People definitely want confidence in their employment, but they need flexibility as well, and this helps us target those gaps and reach it. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Burson.
Yeah, thanks very much. Pretty much agree with what everything that Councillor Sullivan said. I'm also interested in other little groups that we have where we've got like the disabled kids and stuff like that. We have been helping out with like the Duro Street and stuff like that at the start, and there's also some Indigenous companies that do that I've spoken to about like traffic management, that sort of stuff as well, which might be able to assist, which I'm looking forward to see if we can get around them as well. But obviously it goes out through a proper process, etc. But looking forward to see who we can help out with extra work.
Councillor Burson. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? If not, Councillor Sullivan to close.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So we put that to the vote. Those in favour? Missing, but yes, I think that's unanimous, other than Councillor Nelson not being in the chamber. Right. So the next item is the delegation review council committees. Councillor Kados moves. Councillor Story, you moved at the right time. Councillor Story second. So Councillor Kados.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, this is a fairly simple motion before the chamber. Was basically to review and update the city's delegated committees, being the Planning Committee and Geelong Major Events Committee, which I'm chair of both. And basically council has to review all delegations within 12 months of a general election. That was done by the council officers, and after that review, that no changes are proposed to those delegated committees.
Councillor Kados. Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is essentially a procedural motion based on the relevant legislation. Has been summed up well by my colleague. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Story. Any other councillor wishing to speak on the matter? Councillor Kados closing.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So put that to the vote. Those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. Then record informal meetings of council. Councillor Nelson moves. Councillor Kados second. Councillor Nelson.
Nothing to comment on, Mr Mayor.
Kados, anything?
Just happy to receive the summary of the informal meetings as per the report.
Thank you, Councillor Kados. Any other councillor wishing to make comment? No. Councillor Nelson. Closing.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
Nothing further. We then have a number of matters in confidential, so if I can have... Yes? We all voted. Didn't we vote? Those in favour? Oh, sorry. So those in favour? Anyone against? No? Getting ahead of myself there. Sorry, councillors. We next move to two matters into confidential. Can I have a mover that we move the first item into confidential? Councillor Contell, Councillor Nelson. Those in favour? That's unanimous. And the second item is the Audit Risk Committee August meeting minutes. A mover, Councillor Nelson and Councillor Sullivan. Seconded. Anyone else wishing to speak? No. So we move those. Those in favour? And against? Carried. All right, so that we now move into confidential.
To the gallery. Sorry. Grab fight all week.